She will be sailing soon. The last few crates and cases are going aboard. Just one more ship full of British goods for overseas. They've already been sold, these goods. There's a market for them. For one thing, there's a knowledge of craftsmanship behind them. Whether it's the individual skill of men's hands or the complex organization of heavy industry. Buy British is a slogan that has come to mean buy the best. To maintain this standard, manufacturers must keep their products right up to date, and this is where design helps. The designer guides the craftsman's hands. We never hear very much about him, but he has a hand in everything, from bicycles to pottery, from agricultural tools to dresses. The designer's problem is the same, whatever he's planning. He must make the best use of his materials to achieve usefulness and good looks. For example, a dress is no good if it looks well, but is made of material that won't wear. And of course, the opposite is just as true. In 1946, design and designers had a show entirely to themselves. The Britain Can Make It exhibition at the Victoria and Albert Museum was a shop window to show how Britain's manufacturers were tackling a problem, the problem of supplying the best possible goods to the vast world market. Organized by a council of industrial design, it showed the pick of a great range of products of every sort. The attention to display in the exhibition was one example of the importance of good design. This you can see from the layout of these dresses. But design goes a lot deeper than this. At the exhibition, they highlighted 4 important principles. We can see those principles at work in the home to start with. The dining room, which opens onto a model kitchen. Everything is built in here, including the kitchen sink. Umbrellas are pretty much like the weather. They don't change. But there's always something new in handles. Then, from new taps to new washing. To the ultra-modern luxury bathroom, where you can wash with one hand and cure your lumbago under sun lamps with the other. The same principles arise whether you're designing sailing dinghies or shoulder-sized radios. It's no good they're looking well if they don't work well. Here's an armchair that's easy to clean, comfortable to sit on, and which nothing can get lost in. But there are seats and seats. While we're on the subject of children, there is as much scope for the designer in toys as there is in anything else. Use of the right material is one of the most important things here. Just think of the punishment the average toy has to stand up to. Every article is designed to carry out a definite function or to provide a specific service. When it is first made, its usefulness is the first consideration. It's interesting to see how, with the passing of time, the function of an article will almost certainly be quite unchanged. While its design, well, let these clothes ringers speak for themselves. So much for principles. Now let's take one object, a wireless set, and see the inside story of how the designer fits into the picture. In the early days, the only design here was a wiring diagram to show how the set worked. But wires, coils, and what have you soon disappeared into a cabinet, made to look like a piece of well-designed furniture. During the war, a plain standard design was all we could get, if we were lucky enough to get that. But here's the story of how one radio factory tackled the design side of a new set. First of all, a prototype chassis was built, and this was approved by all concerned. Next problem was to design a cabinet. They called in a well-known consultant designer and asked him to plan a set that would be attractive to look at easy to use and practical to make. First, he had to relate the engineer's problems to his own. He based his design on the idea of a circular cabinet built round a loudspeaker. The most novel part of it was a tuning dial running right round the set. That was all very well, but it raised a new difficulty, which brought in the engineers again. The chassis had to be redesigned to a circular pattern. As it turned out, this made the set much easier to get at and consequently much easier to service. There were also other problems. Scientists got to work on materials for it, testing and proving to find out which would stand up best to all possible conditions. Sales experts had their say on such things as the most popular and convenient arrangement of switches and tuning knobs. Plastic was chosen for the case, and this meant new problems in mass production. But at last, the first case came out of the presses. The first chassis came off the line, and production was really underway. So you see, the designer is not just someone drawing patterns on paper. He is part of industry itself, cooperating with everyone from management to worker and understanding their difficulties. So much for the present. Now, what about the future? Designers are always experimenting as new materials and processes appear. Sometimes the first results look a bit odd. But never forget that our forefathers laughed at the very idea of a sewing machine when they saw the first one at the Great Exhibition of 1851. Design has a purpose which is simply to make sure that every manufactured product is the best possible. It can help us to capture more and more markets abroad. At home, it means better tools to work with, better furnishings for our houses. But this is not only a matter for a man planning things in a back room. We're all in it. We can all help in one way. What we buy decides to a large extent what is put up in the shops. If we accept nothing but the best, then we must be offered the best. If we're willing to make do with second-rate stuff, we can only blame ourselves when we're offered it. So let's not forget design and the designer. He's out to do his best to help us. We must see that for our part, we do all we can to help him.